Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Hagen-Botham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, Andrew Bartolotta.
Welcome back to the City Current Show, where we bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good in our community and around the globe. I'm your host, Andrew Bartolotta, and today we're thrilled to have Brady Foulk, the visionary head trainer and founder of New Direction Dog Training. And in addition to being a dog trainer, Brady is also an entrepreneur, philanthropist, and a beacon of hope for dog owners striving to achieve that harmonious relationship with their canine companion. Through his unique approach that blends dog training with life and psychology, Brady has transformed the lives of hundreds of dogs and their families. So let's dive into the world of elegant leadership and dog training and what we can learn from Brady. Brady, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Oh, I appreciate you so much. I want your audience to know whether you have a dog and you want them to listen a little bit better, you're in the right place. Or if you don't have a dog, maybe you have kids, you're also in the right place. We're going to talk about psychology, dog training, and I'm the oldest of 6, so it all kind of relates.
Share with us how you got involved in dog training and what really sparked your passion for this field.
Yeah, growing up, like I mentioned, I'm the oldest of 6, and we had lots of animals growing up. But they were kind of like wild animals. We had a lot of land, so they would run around, they would get into the trash, they would cause mayhem a lot of the times. And I had lots of siblings too, so I was always babysitting, and this idea of how do I kind of get what I want became like a part of my life, because I was always babysitting. It's time for bed, How I did it then is way different than how I do it now because I've learned how this elegant portion of it. But I remember when I was 22, I decided I wanted my own dog. I had moved out of home. I'm an active guy. I like jujitsu, all sorts of different stuff, running. And so I got an Australian Shepherd and I named him Bumblebee. And this guy, he was fantastic. He's beautiful. I loved him. And I bought all the best treats and I let him sleep in my bed. And I got him a crate, but he hated it. And I remember I went and hung out with some friends later at night. And I came home like an hour and a half, 2 hours later. And I just left Bumble in my room. And when I got home, the first thing that hit me was this smell because he had accidents all over the place. It was like 4 piles of poop. I was like, well, he was a little bit worried, I guess. And then there was a chunk of my carpet missing. And then my dad's Father's Day present, he had like got into a box inside a box. And so I decided I needed to do something. I needed to find a new mentor. I kind of hit my breaking point, my rock bottom. And from there, I found Susan Garrett. I paid her thousands of dollars to help me like get my dog to like his crate and to come when called. And I even trained him now to go and open the fridge and get a water bottle and bring it to me and then make sure he shuts the fridge. These aren't wild animals. We don't live in a barn. So as I've done this, I've been doing this for almost 7 years now. I started with helping friends and family with their dogs, and there's some fun stories with that. And then I started charging $25, and I started helping more and more people. And I was like, let's do this full time. And that's where I'm at now in Austin, Texas.
You're also certified in the way that you are training. And I think when you talk the neuroscience behind canines and how you're able to get them to do what you want them to do is very interesting. You really focus on mindfulness in the dog training as well. Can you explain what elegant leadership means and how it applies to dog training?
I believe being a leader means more than just getting results. And I watched on cameras, one of my old roommates kicked and punched my dog, and it really lit a fire inside of me. And life was never the same after that. I realized there's 3 types of leadership. You can use intimidation and punishment. You could use bribes and incentives, or you could use growth and inspiration. And all 3 of them work, all come with consequences, but only one will give you the connection that you're really craving with your dog. And like I mentioned, growing up, one of my siblings told me a story a couple of years ago that they weren't doing what I said. They had their crayons out, they were coloring, they were doing something, and I took their crayons and I put them in a pot and I melted them. And I was like, what? I did that? That wasn't me. But that was kind of leadership. And even when I first got my dog, when he did something bad, I would yell at him and be like, why did you do this? And ultimately, someone who's learning can't be punished because they're learning these things. You got to help grow and teach them. And positive isn't permissive. There's still rules around the house. And I compare it to Monopoly, where if you just have anarchy, like with my family, everyone just will grab the money. And my girlfriend was like, "What are you guys doing?" And it's just like, we take whatever we want. And it's like, no, there's rules to make sure that people don't fight at the end. And being elegant means having rules. It means having a culture. It means envisioning what you want your dog to do, and then putting in the time and training him, or finding a guide like I did to speed up time, because we all want things faster. At least I do.
There's a lot to be said with transformational vocabulary as well, which you do talk, and it's a key element in your training. Can you give an example of how changing one's vocabulary can impact dog training outcomes, and how you can really encourage your dog to do the things that you want them to do?
Yeah, and we could nerd out about it as much as you want, because I'm a huge believer in vocabulary. I'm always reshaping. And with dog training, I get to dog training. I don't have to, I don't need to, I get to. And I tell the same thing to my clients. You don't have to have your dog. You don't need to have a dog. You get to have a dog. And uh, by reframing that, it feels less heavy when it comes to training and getting the owner to train. And then when it comes to the dog, I find, like in my household, the dogs were stubborn or frustrating or idiots or all these different words. And now I say interesting when I run into something that's really interesting. That's goofy, right? You're being a real goofball right now. And changing that just allows me to see it from a different perspective. Like, I'm looking at this building from a different side of it. And it's still the same behavior, but I'm able to find the the benefit in it. Like one of my dogs, she is liking sticks a lot, so she'll get sticks, and she was just kind of leaving them everywhere. And so I taught her how to, like, at least bring him to a pile and like stay in one spot. And so I would reward her when she brought him to this one spot. And then at the end of the day, I pick up all the ones that she's collected and I put them in the trash. And now she's kind of like my stick picker upper. And depending on how you see that situation, you'd have really different training methods. And that starts with your vocabulary, with how you look at it.
Yeah, you're right. And I'm also, I mean, I hate to compare dog training with children as well, but we did talk about it on the onset as we started the conversation, and there are some parallels there. And just the mind shift of how the vocabulary is super important, and the words that you use. I'm guilty of it every single day as a dad and also a dog owner. But like you said, the way that you shape it will help not only get to the outcome that you're looking for, but also in a more positive way, which is always the better way to do it. So throughout
Yeah.
your career, you must have witnessed some incredible transformations with dogs. What's your favorite dog training transformation story?
Yeah, my favorite is my first service dog that I helped train. This woman has cerebral palsy and she's in a wheelchair, and I learned so much about adapting training. And I was on another podcast with someone who also has cerebral palsy, and we were talking about um, the training I had to adapt to a wheelchair. So that kind of changed how we did things in a different way, but we're still able to get the same behaviors. And then even I put on gloves just to kind of feel what it's like to kind of be in her shoes. And like, it's a little bit different being able to hold things and do things, and moving around in a wheelchair, because her dog can only be on one side. If she goes on the other side, she could hit her control and she could lose control and something bad could happen. So showing this dog to be on the side. I also taught her, this is when I taught my dog how to open up the fridge and get the water bottle. I taught her how to do that too. And I was like, well, I've always wanted to train this. This is the best time to train my dog too. So it was daily practicing this, and setting up that training. She's just a great dog, and I learned a lot of lessons from that case. And there's always still more growing and learning, and she's run into other problems that she's had to work through and overcome. But that's the cool thing about dogs and kids, is they're always growing and changing, and you get these opportunities to grow and change with them. I think they're all here to give you a blessing in some sort, right? They're here to give you some sort of lesson, and you can choose to ignore it, or you could choose to embrace it and like take the time to like learn these things and grow with your dog.
I was looking at your TikTok, and you're actually trying to help your dog ride a skateboard. Talk a little bit about that.
I love playing with games, and I grew up playing soccer and baseball and football and all these things, right? And there's a lot of lessons around that. You got to follow the rules, you got to work as a team, you got to do your job on the team, and people have to be able to trust you. Um, and so I've taught her how to like jump through like my arms, which is fun, or I'm teaching her how to jump rope. But this skateboard, I remember growing up, I'd always watch dogs on skateboards, and they were like going. I was like, "Well, that'd be super cool." And Bumblebee's going to be 8 this year. He's getting a little older, and I'm a little worried about his hips and stuff. So moving skateboard. So I was like, okay, Curiosity's 8. She's my new puppy, and um, and so we've been at this for it's like 26 days now in like real time. But we started off with a big skateboard, and we started shrinking that down to a smaller skateboard. And when I bought it on Amazon, I bought a kid's skateboard, and I wanted it to be like not like a ginormous one, but like the size. But this one came in, it's like a quarter of the size. And I'm like, well, I got to return this thing. This is terrible. But then my brother's like, well, you got to see if she can stand on it. And then she's small enough where she can get on it. And we started from a big one, and we shrunk it down. So now I'm getting her another skateboard that's a little bit bigger, plus this little one in case she wants to, like penny board, which I was always like, it's a cool thing. I grew up in San Diego. So yeah, that's the journey I'm going on right now. So if anyone wants to follow that, ND Dog Training is where you can go get a glimpse of that, and join us and follow along and kind of see how it goes. Because right now I'm like pulling her around on a leash, and not her, but the skateboard, and she's like moving her legs and like riding along and like building her confidence. So I think dog training all kind of centers around confidence and learning a new position or a new team. It's a little uncomfortable at first. And as you do it day by day, you can build your confidence. And I think that's really where dogs can thrive, is when they're confident, and then they have the ability to embrace the obstacles. And when you're seeing a new dog or something scary, it's an obstacle for the dog. And I need you to be able to be like, oh, we've done hard things. I need to look at you and trust you and like move over here, move over here. Like if you want me to jump on a rock or something, to like stay still as we watch other dogs pass, like we can do that. So that's how it all kind of ties in together in my brain.
It's really neat too, because I think about like brain games, and for those as in like even in an aging adult, like trying new mindfulness activities, but also ways to stretch your imagination, but also like critical thinking skills. And for, your aging dog being able to say like, sure, it'd be fun for them to ride a skateboard, but then also for Bumblebee to like learn, okay, that they may have some mobility issues moving forward. So like, what are some ways where we can stretch their aptitude for them to just like learn new things, but also exercise as well. So that's really interesting there. So we'll have to follow you and see how it goes. And
Yeah.
speaking of that, for those interested in having a better behaved dog, what are maybe 1 to 2 pieces of advice that you would offer that would say this is what really makes it worth spending not only time and effort, but resources behind including your dog into a training program?
Yeah, I think some of the important and fun things to train, one of them is rollover. And to get to rollover, you got to teach sit and down and stand, and then you can do rollover. And just mastering sit down and stand in itself is very important for a lot of reasons. Like when you're out in public, really the only things you want your dog to be really good at is down and sitting and being able to stay on their place and like watch dogs, or being able to walk on leash calmly. Like those are really the only things that you need, really, and being able to come when called if you're doing off leash stuff. But on leash, you want a good on leash dog. So roll over is a good one, because you got to go through sit down and stand for rollover. And then rollover is a little bit uncomfortable for dogs. Like they're exposing their belly to you. It's like they're rolling on their back and going over. And it's a good trust building exercise where like we go slow through it. And first I teach them pedicure please, which they lay on their side, and they just allow me to like brush them and groom them, or like trim their nails, and they like stay still. And that comes with practicing staying down and staying still. And then from that position, we take them and I get them to roll all the way over. I use a treat and lure them over at first, and then we'll use a target stick to get them over, and then it will turn into this roll over, right? And that whole progression in itself, if you can get really good and just understand the sequencing of that and be able to work through those challenging moments with your dog, there's a ton of growth, and it's helpful to have someone who's every dog's a little different with rollover. So I've done it with literally like every dog that I've trained. I've taught them how to roll over, and there's some tricks to it. If your dog's not doing it, and you're like, my dog can never do that. It's like I've taught a lot of dogs how to do this. So that one's really fun. And then the other one is place or crate training. That is really important for like separation anxiety. That's really important for them to like feel safe and secure. That's important if you have guests coming over to their house and you don't want your dog to jump on them or bark at them. Like you want them to go to a place and like stay there and like have the people come in, and then they can say hi to your dog and you can release them from that. So that behavior of them following grandma's rule, which I don't know if your family was like this, but my family was. If like my friends came and knocked on the door and they're like, "Can Brady come play?" My mom would look at me and she goes, "Is your room clean?" And if my room was clean, I could go play. If it wasn't clean, she'd be like, "Well, how are you going to play if your room's not clean?" And I'd be like, "Shoot!" Like, and so it's same with you.
Yeah, same. Absolutely same.
So our
Love it.
dogs, we want them to understand that lesson too. And it's like these people can't come inside until you go to your place. And if you come off your place, these people go back outside. And like we play this little tennis match back and forth until the dog's like, okay, okay, I want to see these people. I'll stay on my place. And it's that skill in itself is really cool for the dog because it's a conversation and you start showing them how to get what they want. And so I give my dog bedtime cookies, but for you to get a bedtime cookie, you got to go to your crate. And so if my dog wants his cookie early, he'll go like hang out in his crate early. And it's just like his way of saying like, hey, can I have a treat? And it's a good behavior for my dog just to like go chill in his crate and I'll just drop a treat in there.
That's so smart. And I love that you call it pedicure, please. Do you say that to the dog, or is that just sort of like the training method that you
I say
that
it.
and
That's
so
the
yeah,
word. I'll say
that's
pedicure, please. Yeah.
because when you were saying it, I'm like, did he just say pedicure, please? And then when you're that is so funny. I love that. That's great. Um, you
Yeah.
also have to have immense patience to deal with training animals. And dogs in particular, I can imagine. So kudos to you to be able to train multiple different breeds of dogs as well, from a service animal to riding a skateboard. That is
Yeah.
a real big gamut of ways that you're able to exercise your leadership skills to and patience to then train the dogs. Okay, so let's nerd out a little bit and talk about sequencing and why that matters. We were talking before we recorded about NPL conditioning. Like, you really dive into the minutia of dog training, which is really neat, and really the psychology behind it. So talk about sequencing and what that means and the importance of it.
Yeah, so I'm a big Tony Robbins nerd. So I've been to Date with Destiny and UPWs, and I volunteer to do the fire walks and stuff too. So I don't know if you have Dave Albin on, but he's a great guest too. And from that, I take how, if I'm able to condition myself to overcome a fear of like at one point I was afraid of dogs because I got bit, and like I was like, shoot, like I can't be afraid of dogs, right? And sometimes my clients have their own fears, like they're going to mess up their dog or procrastinating different things, right? And so sequencing plays a big role in dog training because when dogs form patterns, and humans too, they do it in a specific way. There's a trigger, and then the behavior happens, and then there's a consequence, either good or bad. And humans are doing anything to either avoid pain or to get pleasure. It's why we do anything in life. And same for dogs, they're doing the same thing. So sometimes things get linked up in dogs' brains that like garbage trucks are scary, right? For whatever reason, it was really loud and it passed by the house and you weren't expecting it. And like you had an emotional response and it became scary to you. So sequencing would be important because one, you were able to figure out kind of the trigger. So you would start observing the situation. Like if you didn't know what's happening, the first thing to do is observe. And same for yourself, right? There's sometimes I'll snack too much, right? And there's certain triggers and there's certain thoughts that I think that starts this sequence of behaviors, and dogs have the same thing. And typically theirs are related to sounds or sights or smells. So if you can understand the ABCs of dog training, which is antecedent, which just means trigger, behavior, and consequence, just like I went over, and take these, and you can set up things for your dog or for yourself to show them how not to be afraid of things. And so, what for the trash can, right? What I would do is I would get to as close as the trash can as I could with the dog. And then I would have something that they really enjoy. So that could be playing with a toy with me, or like a treat, or maybe just some love. Sometimes it's just even walking away. It's just like, we're close, we walk away. And same thing if you're afraid of tarantulas, you can do like exposure therapy, and you can get closer and closer to this thing and go back and forth. And the idea is you are changing the wiring in your brain, because what wires together fires together. So I want happy emotions firing when you see this sight of a trash can. And for me, and for snacking, I want this question or this thought to pop up in my head when I reach for the pantry door, or when I reach for the fridge door, like that moment right before I open it and I scan of seeing what I can eat. And you know what I'm talking about, right?
I know what you're talking about.
So I got this picture on the fridge now that says, nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. And now I see this and I go, I want to be healthy, I want to be fit. And so I'm going to do a different behavior. I'm going to grab a water and I'm going to drink some water. And so I've conditioned myself to go to the fridge, grab a water. And that is a way more sustainable behavior than just the obtainable behavior of like, I'm bored, I'm going to eat something right now. And that all ties back into sequencing and baking a cake. And I don't know if you've ever baked a cake. I'm not much of a baker. But if you just take all the ingredients and you just mix it around, it doesn't come out looking like a cake. You got to follow the recipe and follow the sequence. And that's why sequence is important.
For listeners who are eager to learn more about you and New Direction Dog Training, where can they find more information?
Yeah, you can go to my Instagram or TikTok. It's the same name. It's N as in Nancy, D as in Drew, Dog Training, ND Dog Training. My website is info.newdirectiondogtraining.com. If you want to get a quote or kind of see some of my services, what I do, if you want to talk to me more, you can fill out the form and ask me some questions, and we can go from there. And then right now, getting more people involved outside of Austin, I'm going to start up a book club that's going to read some cool like dog training books. Oh, come on, there you go. Anywho, that's one of my favorite dog training books. And that way we can start bridging this gap, because books, I love books. I've learned so much from them, and there's books that are different and they're helpful in different ways. And so that's going to be starting soon too. So if you want to be part of that, DM me in my Instagram book club and I'll send you the invite for that.
Awesome. Super cool. I love that you're starting that book club to, to partner with people across the United States, or really across the globe, to learn from each other, but also to teach them as well. That's super cool. I love your innovative approach to dog training and your dedication to really helping families achieve a deeper and more fulfilling relationship with their pets. Super cool. And thank you for joining us to power the good in our community and around the globe.
It's been a pleasure, man. I appreciate you for having me here.